never imagined my home could feel so foreign, so menacing, until I stepped through the front door that April afternoon in Monterey, California. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, the kind that makes your skin prickle before you even know why. I'm Olivia Bennett, a 35-year-old cybersecurity consultant who's spent years outsmarting hackers and securing corporate secrets, but nothing in my high-stakes career prepared me for the betrayal waiting inside my own house. My suitcase thudded against the hardwood floor as I called out, "Sophia? Sweetheart, Mommy's home." Silence answered, cold and heavy, broken only by a faint, rhythmic scraping from the kitchen. My heart lurched. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. I dropped my keys, my pulse hammering as I moved toward the sound, each step echoing in the empty house. The living room was a snapshot of neglect. Sophia's favorite stuffed dolphin, Finn, lay discarded on the couch, its blue fabric limp and lonely. She never went anywhere without Finn, not since she was 2, when I promised her a new family after tragedy stole her first one. My sister Claire and her husband died in a plane crash, leaving Sophia, their only child, orphaned. I was 27, single, and terrified, but I stepped up, adopting her and vowing to give her the love and stability she deserved. That promise was my anchor, and now, as I neared the kitchen, it felt like it was unraveling. The scraping grew louder, punctuated by soft, stifled sobs. I rounded the corner and froze. My 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, was on her hands and knees on the cold tile floor, scrubbing furiously with a coarse brush. Around her, shards of broken glass glinted under the fluorescent light. A shattered juice bottle scattered like a minefield. A bucket of soapy water sat beside her, its surface clouded with industrial cleaner that reeked of ammonia. Her small hands, red and blistered, trembled as she worked, her curls damp with sweat, her face streaked with dried tears. She was still in the same faded t-shirt from our last video call, now stained with purple juice. My breath caught, rage and fear colliding in my chest. "Sophia," I whispered, barely able to form her name. She startled, the brush clattering to the floor as her wide hazel eyes met mine. For a split second, fear flashed across her face as if I were a stranger, before recognition dawned. "Mommy?" Her voice was small, uncertain, like she couldn't believe I was real. I crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, ignoring the glass crunching under my boots, and knelt beside her, not caring that the soapy water soaked my slacks. "Baby, what are you doing? Where are Grandma and Grandpa?" My voice trembled, but I kept it soft, not wanting to scare her more. Sophia's lower lip quivered, fresh tears spilling over. "I'm sorry, Mommy. I spilled juice this morning and made a big mess. Grandma said I had to clean the whole floor before they got back, or I wouldn't get dinner." Her words hit like a punch, each one sharper than the glass around us. I scanned the kitchen, noticing the gas stove's burner hissing softly, a faint smell of gas mingling with the cleaner's fumes. My blood ran cold. She'd been alone in a house with a live hazard, surrounded by broken glass for who knows how long. "Sophia, how long have they been gone?" I asked, forcing calm into my voice. "Since breakfast," she whispered, her shoulders slumping. "They took Emma to Disneyland. Grandma said I couldn't go because I wouldn't appreciate it like Emma would. She said Emma's their real granddaughter." Her voice broke, and my heart shattered with it. I pulled her into my arms, feeling her small body shake against mine. Emma, my brother-in-law's daughter, was the same age as Sophia, but to my in-laws, Richard and Margaret Carter, she was the golden child, the one with Carter blood. Sophia, adopted by my husband James and me, was always an afterthought, an outsider in their eyes. I held her tighter, my mind racing. 6 hours. They'd left my 8-year-old daughter alone for 6 hours, scrubbing floors with toxic chemicals, while they took Emma to a theme park. The cruelty of it was staggering, but worse was the realization that this wasn't a one-off. This was a pattern. a deliberate choice to make Sophia feel less than. I glanced at the fridge, where a yellow sticky note caught my eye, written in Margaret's sharp handwriting. Sophia needs to learn her place. The words burned into me, a cryptic taunt that fueled my fury. What did she mean by that? What else had they done to my daughter? "Sweetheart, you're not in trouble," I said, brushing back her damp curls. "None of this is your fault. Let's get you cleaned up." I helped her to her feet, noticing the angry red marks on her knees from kneeling too long, her hands raw and peeling from the cleaner. As I led her to the bathroom, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from James. "Still stuck in Hawaii. Client crisis worse than expected. Love you and Soph." I swallowed a wave of frustration. James, a marine biologist, had been called away for an urgent conservation project, leaving Sophia with his parents when our usual sitters fell through. I'd hesitated, remembering Margaret's cold remarks about Sophia not being a real Carter, but we had no other options, or so we thought. In the bathroom, I ran warm water over Sophia's hands, wincing at the blisters. "Did Grandma, Grandpa say anything else?" I asked gently, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated, her eyes fixed on the sink. "Grandma said I was lucky you and Daddy took me in because nobody else wanted me. She said I could have ended up in a bad place, like an orphanage." Her voice was so matter-of-fact it broke me. She believed it. Believed she was a burden, a second-class citizen in her own family. I fought back tears, rage simmering beneath my calm facade. "Sophia, listen to me," I said, cupping her face. "You are not lucky we took you in. We are the lucky ones. You are my heart, my everything, and I'm so sorry this happened." She nodded, but her eyes were distant, haunted. As I applied lotion to her hands, I noticed a small bruise on her shoulder, faint but unmistakable. "Soph, how did you get this?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She shrugged, barely glancing at it. "Grandma grabbed me yesterday when I dropped a plate. She said I was clumsy and needed to be more careful." My stomach twisted. A grown woman had grabbed my child hard enough to leave a mark, and for what? A broken plate? I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm for Sophia's sake. "Accidents happen, baby. Adults should never hurt you, no matter what." I led her to the living room, wrapping her in a blanket with Finn tucked under her arm. "We're going to get ice cream," I said, needing to get her out of this house that suddenly felt like a crime scene. At her favorite shop by the Monterey Pier, the ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and kelp as Sophia nibbled a mint chocolate cone. Between bites, she opened out, her words spilling out like a dam breaking. "Grandma made me eat plain bread for dinner while Emma got chicken nuggets," she said, her voice small. She said the nuggets were special for Emma because she's family. I clenched my jaw, my nails digging into my palms. And yesterday they went shopping with Emma and left me at home. I was scared, Mommy. I went outside to find someone, but a car almost hit me. My heart stopped. She'd wandered into the street, alone, desperate for help. The image of my daughter dodging traffic while her grandparents spoiled Emma made my blood boil. "You're so brave, Soap," I said, forcing a smile. "You did nothing wrong." But inside I was screaming. How could they do this? How could they leave her in danger, make her feel worthless while parading their real granddaughter around? I pulled out my phone and texted James. "Emergency, your parents left Sophia alone for hours. Call me now." I didn't care that he was in the middle of a crisis. This was our daughter, our priority. Back home, I ran Sophia a bubble bath, letting her play with her mermaid toys while I paced the hallway, my mind a storm of plans and fury. The gas stove, the broken glass, the bruise, the street incident, each detail was a knife to my chest. And then there was the note on the fridge, those chilling words. Sophia needs to learn her place. It wasn't just neglect, it was emotional warfare, designed to break her spirit. I checked my phone again. No response from James. I tried calling, but it went to voicemail. Damn it, James. I needed him here, needed us to be a united front against this betrayal. As Sophia splashed in the tub, I noticed something else. Her favorite dolphin backpack, usually slung over her chair, was missing. I stepped into her room, searching, and found it shoved under her bed, zipper broken. Inside was her journal, pages filled with crayon drawings of a girl crying, labeled "Not a Carter." My throat tightened, tears burning my eyes. She'd internalized their cruelty, believed she was less than because she wasn't born into their bloodline. I clutched the journal, my resolve hardening. This ended today. No one would hurt my daughter like this again. I tucked Sophia into bed early, her favorite pajamas soft against her bruised skin. "Am I in trouble with Grandma?" she asked, clutching Finn. "No, baby," I said, kissing her forehead. "Grandma and Grandpa are in big trouble with me. You're perfect, and I love you more than the ocean loves the shore." She smiled faintly, but the fear in her eyes lingered. I closed her door and leaned against it, my hands shaking. The confrontation was coming. Richard and Margaret would be back soon, and I'd be ready. I moved to the kitchen, cleaning up the glass and turning off the gas stove, my movements mechanical as I replayed Sophia's words. Then I found something that stopped me cold. Finn, her stuffed dolphin, wasn't the one on the couch. The real Finn was locked in a drawer in the guest room, where Margaret and Richard had been staying. Why would they hide it? What kind of mind games were they playing? I retrieved it, tucking it beside Sophia as she slept, but the discovery gnawed at me. There was more to this than I'd realized, a deeper cruelty I hadn't yet uncovered. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. "Sophia's fine. Stop overreacting. She needs to learn discipline." The audacity of it sent a fresh wave of anger through me. I typed a reply, then deleted it. No, this wasn't a text conversation. This was face-to-face, no holds barred. I checked the time. 5:45 p.m. They'd be back any minute, likely with Emma, their bags stuffed with Disneyland souvenirs. I squared my shoulders, readying myself for the fight of my life. The sound of tires on gravel snapped me to attention. I moved to the living room, standing in the entryway like a sentinel. The front door swung open, Margaret's laughter grating against my nerves as she entered, arms laden with bags emblazoned with Mickey Mouse logos. Richard followed, carrying a sleepy Emma, her face painted with a glittery butterfly. They didn't notice me at first, too caught up in their amusement park high. Then I cleared my throat, loud and deliberate. Margaret jumped, clutching her chest. "Olivia, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be back until tomorrow." Her voice was shrill, defensive, like she'd been caught stealing. Richard set Emma down, his eyes darting around. "Where's Sophia?" he asked, almost too casually. "Sophia's upstairs," I said, my voice low and steady, though my heart pounded like a war drum. "Resting after 6 hours alone, scrubbing your kitchen floor with industrial cleaner, surrounded by broken glass, while you took Emma to Disneyland." Margaret's face flickered, guilt, maybe, or just annoyance, before settling into a scowl. "Don't be dramatic, Olivia. She spilled juice and made a mess. We're teaching her responsibility." "Responsibility?" I repeated, stepping closer. "You left an 8-year-old alone in a house with a gas leak, broken glass, and no food, while you played happy family at a theme park. You call that responsibility?" Richard shifted uncomfortably, but Margaret doubled down, tossing her bags onto the couch. "She's fine. You're blowing this out of proportion. Kids need discipline." "Discipline?" My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "You locked her in the garage yesterday, Margaret. No food, no water. For hours, she wandered into the street looking for help and nearly got hit by a car. And you bruised her arm when she dropped a plate. That's not discipline. That's abuse." Emma's eyes widened, and I softened my tone, not wanting to scare her. "Emma, sweetie, Why don't you go play in the den for a bit?" As Emma scampered off, Margaret's eyes narrowed. "You're twisting her words. Sophia's always been dramatic, just like you. She probably made it all up to get attention." I pulled out my phone where I'd recorded Sophia's tearful account. "She didn't make it up. I have her exact words, and I have the note you left on the fridge. Sophia needs to learn her place." "Care to explain that?" Richard paled, but Margaret scoffed. "It's just a figure of speech. She needs to understand she's not—" She stopped herself, but I finished for her. "Not what? Not a real Carter? Because that's what you told her. That she's not family, that she's lucky we didn't leave her in an orphanage." My voice shook with fury, but I held her gaze, unyielding. "We never said that," Richard interjected, his voice weak. "You're misunderstanding." But Margaret's silence told me everything. I stepped closer, my finger pointed at her. "You told my daughter she's not worthy of love because she's adopted. You hid her stuffed animal, made her eat scraps while Emma got treats, and left her alone in a dangerous house. Do you know what happens when you leave a child alone with a gas leak? Or when she's exposed to a neighbor's aggressive dog, like she was yesterday?" Margaret's face twisted. "You're going to call the authorities, aren't you, over a little time out?" I nodded, unflinching. "If I have to. Neglect is a crime, Margaret. And emotional abuse? That's a wound that doesn't heal easily." My phone rang, James's name flashing on the screen. I put it on speaker, not breaking eye contact with Margaret. "James, you need to hear this." "Olivia, what's going on?" His voice was tense, strained from his own crisis in Hawaii. I didn't hold back. "Your parents left Sophia alone for 6 hours today, scrubbing floors with chemicals, surrounded by broken glass. They locked her in the garage yesterday, bruised her arm, and told her she's not family because she's not blood. They took Emma to Disneyland and left her behind." There was a long silence, then James's voice, raw with rage. "Emma did what?" Margaret tried to interrupt, her voice syrupy. "James, honey, she's exaggerating. Sophia was difficult, and we—" James cut her off. "Stop. You left my daughter alone in a house with a gas leak? You told her she's not family? Mom, Dad, how could you?" His voice cracked, and I felt a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support, even from thousands of miles away. "We just wanted to give Emma a special day," Richard mumbled. "Sophia was acting out." James's voice turned to steel. "Acting out? She's 8. You don't abandon an 8-year-old to teach her a lesson. You don't make her feel like garbage because she's adopted. She's my daughter, Dad. Mine. And if you can't treat her the same as Emma—" Margaret's face reddened. "Blood is thicker than water, James. You can't expect us to feel the same about a child who's not really ours." The room went silent, her words hanging like a guillotine. Even Richard looked stunned, as if she'd said the quiet part out loud. I leaned forward, my voice deadly calm. "Get out. Pack your things and leave. Hotel, your house in Sophia again, without supervision." Margaret sputtered, grabbing her purse. "This is absurd. You can't keep us from our granddaughter." "Watch me," I said, crossing my arms. "You've hurt my daughter enough." Richard tried to mediate. "Olivia, let's talk this out. We made a mistake, but cutting us off—" I shook my head. "This wasn't a mistake. It's a pattern. The gifts, the comments, the exclusion. You've been telling Sophia she's less than for years. It stops now." As they gathered their bags, Margaret turned to me, venom in her eyes. "James could do better than you and that girl." I smiled, unfazed. Funny, I was thinking Sophia deserves better grandparents. The door slammed behind them, tires screeching as they drove off with Emma, who looked confused and scared. I leaned against the wall, exhaustion crashing over me. The fight was over, but the war was just beginning. I climbed the stairs to Sophia's room, finding her curled up with Finn, her eyes heavy but open. "Did they leave because of me?" she asked, her voice small. I sat beside her, pulling her close. "No, sweetheart, they left because they made bad choices. You are perfect, and we're going to make sure you're always safe and loved." She nodded, but the doubt in her eyes lingered, a wound I'd spend the rest of my life healing. James called back as I sat by Sophia's bed, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm on the next flight home. Screw the project. Sophia comes first." We talked through the night, planning our next steps. Therapy, boundaries, maybe even legal action. The note on the fridge, the hidden dolphin, the journal. They were pieces of a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. What else had they done? What else was Margaret hiding? I glanced at my laptop, my cybersecurity instincts kicking in. She'd been texting James from a locked email account. With my skills, I could crack it. But did I want to know what secrets it held? As Sophia slept, her face peaceful for the first time that day, I made a silent vow. No one would ever make my daughter feel unwanted again. The road ahead would be messy, family rifts, therapy, maybe even a courtroom. But I was ready. For Sophia, I'd fight the world, and somewhere, deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of unraveling the Carters' toxic legacy. The Monterey sunrise painted the sky in hues of coral and gold, but inside our home, the air was thick with the aftermath of betrayal. Sophia slept upstairs, her small form curled around Finn, her stuffed dolphin, as if clinging to the only thing she could trust. I sat at the kitchen table, the same floor she'd been forced to scrub now gleaming under the morning light, a silent testament to the cruelty she'd endured. My laptop hummed softly, its screen open to a file I'd started compiling. Sophia's recorded account, photos of her blistered hands, the bruise on her shoulder, and that damning note from Margaret. Sophia needs to learn her place. Each piece was a weapon, and I was ready to wield them all to protect my daughter. James sat across from me, his face haggard from the red-dye flight from Hawaii, his eyes burning with a mix of guilt and fury. "I should have seen it sooner," he whispered, running a hand through his salt-streaked hair. "How did I miss this?" I reached for his hand, my own trembling. "We both missed it, James. They hid it well. The little slights, the subtle exclusions, but it's out now, and we're not letting it happen again." He nodded, his jaw tight, but the weight of his parents' actions hung between us like a storm cloud. The confrontation with Richard and Margaret had been a battle, but it was only the first. I could feel it in my gut, honed by years of sniffing out digital threats as a cybersecurity consultant. This wasn't over. Margaret's parting shot. "James deserves better than you and that girl," echoed in my mind, laced with a venom that hinted at something deeper, something planned. As James poured coffee, his phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a string of missed calls from his mother. He ignored it, but a new text popped up and I caught a glimpse before he turned it away. "You're making a mistake, James. We'll fix this our way." My stomach twisted. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice sharper than intended. He shook his head, but his eyes betrayed unease. "They're just lashing out. They can't stand being called out." But I wasn't so sure. Margaret's cryptic fridge note, the hidden photo album of only Emma, the locked email account I'd discovered last night. There was a pattern here, a deliberate intent I couldn't yet decipher. My cybersecurity instincts screamed at me to dig deeper, but first, we had to protect Sophia. I glanced at the clock. 7:15, I emailed Sophia would wake soon, and we needed to set the tone for her day, to shield her from the chaos. "We need to talk to her," I said. "Make sure she knows none of this is her fault." James nodded, but before we could plan further, a sharp knock rattled the front door. My heart lurched. It was too early for visitors, and after yesterday, unexpected guests felt like threats. I motioned for James to stay put and crept to the entryway, peering through the peephole. A man in a navy suit stood there, holding a leather briefcase, his face stern and unfamiliar. I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain lock in place. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice clipped. "Olivia Bennett?" he said, his tone formal. "I'm David Kessler, an attorney representing Richard and Margaret Carter. I'm here to discuss custody concerns regarding Sophia Carter." My blood ran cold, my fingers tightening on the doorframe. Custody concerns? They'd barely left our house 12 hours ago, and now they were sending a lawyer? "There's no custody issue here," I said, forcing calm. "Sophia is our daughter, legally adopted by both of us. You're on private property, and I suggest you leave." Kessler's eyes narrowed, but he slid a business card through the gap. "This isn't over, Ms. Bennett. My clients have rights as grandparents. You'll hear from us." He turned and walked away, his polished shoes clicking on the gravel drive. I slammed the door, my heart pounding as I handed the card to James. "They're already lawyering up," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "After what they did, they think they have rights?" James's face darkened as he read the card, his knuckles whitening. "They're delusional. They neglected her, hurt her. No court would side with them." But his words lacked conviction, and I could see the same fear in his eyes that churned in my gut. Margaret's text, "We'll fix this our way," took on a new, sinister meaning. Were they planning to challenge our parenthood? To paint us as unfit to justify their actions? Before we could process it, Sophia's voice called from upstairs. "Mommy? Daddy?" Her footsteps pattered down the stairs, and she appeared in her dolphin pajamas, fin clutched to her chest. Her eyes were puffy from sleep, but the fear from yesterday lingered, a shadow I couldn't banish. I knelt beside her, forcing a smile. "Good morning, sweetheart. How about some pancakes?" She nodded, but her gaze darted to the window, as if expecting Margaret's car to reappear. James scooped her up, his voice warm but strained. "We're a team, Soph. You, me, and Mommy. Nobody's going to change that, okay?" She buried her face in his shoulder, and I felt a pang of gratitude for his steadiness, even as my mind raced with what-ifs. Over breakfast, we kept the conversation light, talking about Sophia's upcoming school talent show and her love for marine life, a passion she shared with James. But her usual spark was dimmed, her answers short. When she pushed her pancakes around her plate, I gently probed. "So, can you tell us more about what happened while we were gone? Anything you remember, even if it feels small?" She hesitated, her fork still, then whispered, "That you and Dottie only kept me because you felt sorry for me." James's fork clattered to the table, his face a mask of shock. I reached for Sophia's hand, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. "That's a lie, Sophia. You are our greatest gift. We chose you because we love you, not out of pity." Her eyes welled up, and she pulled out her journal from under the table, its pages crinkled. "I drew this," she said, opening to a sketch of a girl crying, labeled "Not a Carter." My throat tightened, the raw pain in her childish handwriting cutting deeper than any wound. "Grandma saw it and laughed," she added, her voice barely audible. "She said it was true." James's chair scraped back as he stood, pacing to the window, his fists clenched. They laughed at her pain," he muttered, more to himself than me. I took the journal, my fingers tracing the drawing. "Sophia, you are a Carter and a Bennett, and most importantly, you're you. Nobody can take that away." After breakfast, we sent Sophia to her room to play, promising a trip to the aquarium later. James and I retreated to the living room, where I opened my laptop and pulled up the encrypted email account I'd found on Margaret's phone during last night's chaos. My cybersecurity skills were my superpower, and if Margaret was hiding something, I'd find it. "What are you doing?" James asked, his voice tense. "Deal with it. He's been emailing you from a locked account," I said, my fingers flying over the keyboard. "I saw it when I checked her phone last night. There's something she doesn't want us to see." He frowned, torn between curiosity and dread. "Olivia, are you sure? If we dig into this, it could make things worse." "Worse than leaving our daughter alone with a gas leak?" I snapped, then softened. "James, they're already calling lawyers. We need to know what we're up against." He nodded, reluctant but trusting. The encryption was sophisticated, but I'd cracked tougher systems for corporate clients. Within minutes I was in, and what I found made my blood run cold. The thread of emails between Margaret and an unknown contact, discussing securing family rights and evidence of Olivia's instability. One message read, "We need to prove she's unfit. Sophia deserves a real family." Attached was a photo of me at a work conference, glass of wine in hand, captioned, "Drinking on the job." My hands shook as I showed James. "They're building a case against me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. James's face went white. "They're trying to take her from us." His voice rose, cracking with panic. I grabbed his arm, grounding us both. "They won't. We have evidence, her journal, the recording, the bruise. But we need to be strategic." My mind raced, mapping out our next moves like a chess game. We'd need a lawyer, a good one, and fast. But before I could say more, the doorbell rang again, sharp and insistent. Sophia's voice called from upstairs. "Mommy, is that them?" The fear in her tone was a knife to my heart. I checked the peephole, expecting Kessler again, but it was worse. Ethan, James's younger brother, and his wife Claire, with Emma in tow. Ethan's face was grim, his usual easy smile replaced by a tightness I'd never seen. "We need to talk," he said as I opened the door, his voice low. Claire held Emma's hand, her eyes darting nervously to the street, as if expecting someone to follow. I ushered them inside, my guard up. Ethan was the father of Emma, the real granddaughter Margaret adored, but he'd always been kind to Sophia. Still, after yesterday, trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. "Sophia's upstairs," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "What's this about?" Ethan glanced at Claire, who nodded, then pulled out a folded letter from his pocket. "Mom sent this to the whole family," he said, handing it to me. I unfolded it, my heart sinking as I read Margaret's words. "Olivia has fabricated lies about us to alienate Sophia. The girl is troubled, prone to tantrums and deceit. She needs firm discipline, not coddling." The lies were blatant, a smear campaign to paint Sophia as the problem and me as an unhinged mother. James read over my shoulder, his breath hitching. "They're trying to turn everyone against us," he said, his voice shaking. Emma tugged at Claire's sleeve. "Is Sophia okay?" "Grandma said she's bad, but I don't think so." Her innocent concern cut through the tension, and I knelt to her level, forcing a smile. "Sophia's fine, Emma. She's just resting. You're a good cousin for worrying about her." Claire's eyes softened, but Ethan's stayed hard. "There's more," he said, lowering his voice. "Mom called a family meeting tomorrow at their house in San Diego. They're telling everyone you're unfit, Olivia. They're saying Sophia's better off with them." The room spun, my vision narrowing to a pinprick. They weren't just fighting for visitation. They were trying to take her. I stood, my hands clenched into fists. "They can't do this. They abused her, Ethan. They left her alone, bruised her, told her she's not family." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "I believe you. Emma told us things, how Mom made Sophia clean while she played, how they left her behind." "I didn't know it was this bad," Claire spoke up, her voice trembling. "Mom showed me a photo album last week, all pictures of Emma. She said it was for real family memories." I thought it was odd, but now I froze, remembering the album I'd found in Margaret's suitcase, filled only with Emma's photos. "Where is it now?" I asked, my voice urgent. Claire hesitated, then pulled it from her bag. "I took it when we left their house. I didn't want them using it to hurt Sophia." I flipped through the pages, each one a stab of exclusion. Emma at birthdays, Emma at the beach, Emma with Margaret's beaming smile. Not a single photo of Sophia. My hands shook as I closed it, a new piece of evidence in our arsenal. "Olivia," Ethan said, his voice low. "There's something else. I overheard Mom on the phone last night talking to someone about leverage. She mentioned a private investigator and something about your work. I think they're digging into your past." My heart stopped. My career as a cybersecurity consultant had made enemies. Hackers I'd exposed, corporations I'd challenged. If Margaret was hiring a PI to twist my professional life into a weapon, this was bigger than a family feud. It was a calculated attack. James stepped forward, his voice steady despite the storm in his eyes. "Thank you, Ethan. We need allies, and I'm glad you're with us." Ethan nodded, but his expression was grim. "Be careful. Mom's not backing down, and Dad's going along with her. They're desperate to save face." As they left, Emma hugged me, whispering, "Tell Sophia I miss her." I promised I would, my heart aching for the cousins caught in this mess. Alone again, James and I sat in silence, the weight of Ethan's warning settling over us. "A private investigator," I said, my voice hollow. "They're trying to destroy me to get to Sophia." James pulled me close, his arms a lifeline. "They won't win. We'll fight this together." But the fear lingered, a cold knot in my stomach. I opened my laptop again, diving back into Margaret's email account. Another message had arrived from the same unknown contact. Found something on Bennett. Financial discrepancies at Apex Solutions. Enough to question her stability. My breath caught. Apex Solutions was my former employer, where I'd uncovered a massive data breach years ago. The case had been high profile, and I'd made enemies. Were Margaret and Richard exploiting that to build their case? I showed James, his face paling. "They're fabricating lies," he said, but his voice wavered. "What if they twist it enough to convince a judge?" I shook my head, my resolve hardening. "They won't. I have records, contacts, proof of my work. But we need a lawyer now." I called my colleague Mia, a cybersecurity expert and my best friend, who'd helped me navigate tough cases before. "Olivia, this is insane," she said when I explained. "I'll connect you with a family law attorney, Sarah Klein. She's a shark. And I'll dig into that email account, see who this contact is." Her support was a lifeline, but the clock was ticking. By noon, Sophia was ready for the aquarium, her face lighting up at the promise of seeing dolphins. We drove to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, the ocean sparkling under a cloudless sky. As she pressed her nose to the glass, watching a dolphin glide by, I saw a glimpse of her old joy, the girl who'd once believed she was loved without condition. But her questions came fast, each one a dagger. "Why does Grandma hate me? Is it because I'm not like Emma?" I knelt beside her, my voice firm. "Grandma doesn't hate you, Soph. She made bad choices because of her own wrong ideas. You are perfect, and you're ours." She nodded, but the doubt lingered. A wound we'd need more than words to heal. That afternoon, we met with Dr. Emily Voss, a therapist specializing in family trauma and adoption. Her office was warm, filled with soft blues and ocean murals, but Sophia clung to Finn, her eyes wary. Dr. Voss knelt to her level, her voice gentle. "Sophia, can you tell me how you felt when Grandma left you alone?" Sophia hesitated, then whispered, "Like I wasn't good enough. Like I'm not a real Carter. James's hand tightened on mine, his eyes glistening. Dr. Voss nodded, her expression kind but direct. Those feelings are real, Sophia, but they come from what others did, not who you are. You're a Carter because your dad chose you, and that's stronger than anything. As Sophia drew in her journal, sharing more of her pain, Dr. Voss spoke to us privately. She's internalized years of subtle rejection, she said. Children often blame themselves for unfair treatment. With therapy, she can heal, but it'll take time and consistency. I nodded, my resolve strengthening. We'll do whatever it takes. But as we left, my phone buzzed with a new email from Margaret's account, forwarded to me by Mia. Check the news. Bennett's past is catching up. My heart raced as I opened a local news site. My name splashed across a headline. Cybersecurity expert linked to corporate scandal. The article was vague, citing sources about financial irregularities at Apex Solutions, painting me as reckless and unstable. I showed James, my voice shaking. They're leaking lies to the press. This is their leverage. His face hardened. We're fighting back. No one's taking Sophia from us. We called Sarah Klein, the lawyer Mia recommended, and within hours she was at our house, her sharp eyes scanning the evidence we'd gathered. This is serious, she said, reviewing the journal, the recording, and the bruise photos. Neglect, emotional abuse, and now defamation. We can file for a restraining order and counter their custody claims. But you need to be prepared. They're playing dirty. That night, as Sophia slept, I dug deeper into Margaret's emails, finding a trail leading to a private investigator named Victor Crane. His messages hinted at more than just my past. They mentioned Sophia's biological family, my sister's crash, and questions about the adoption. My heart stopped. Were they trying to challenge the adoption itself? The crash had been ruled an accident, but the implication was chilling. I showed James, who looked like he'd been punched. They're going after everything, he said, his voice raw. Our family, our daughter. The next morning, Ethan called, his voice urgent. Mom's holding that family meeting today. They're telling everyone you're unstable and Sophia's better off with them. I'm going to shut it down, but you need to know. They've got photos, documents, something about your sister's estate. My mind raced. Claire's estate had been settled years ago, but there'd been a small trust for Sophia, managed by me. Had Margaret found a way to twist that too? I thanked Ethan, promising to keep him updated, and turned to James. We need to go to San Diego. Face them head on. The drive to San Diego was tense, the coastal highway blurring past as Sophia sat in the back seat, headphones on, watching a dolphin documentary. James gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. What if they've convinced the family? He asked, his voice low. What if they turn everyone against us? I reached for his hand. We have the truth, and we have Sophia. That's enough. But my confidence wavered as we pulled into the Carters' sprawling San Diego estate, cars lining the driveway, a family summit ready to crucify us. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Margaret stood at the head of the room, her face a mask of righteous indignation, surrounded by aunts, uncles, and cousins. Richard sat beside her, his eyes downcast, while a projector displayed photos of me, grainy shots from conferences, one with a wine glass, another with a colleague, captioned as proof of my instability. Sophia clung to my side, her eyes wide as she spotted Emma across the room. I whispered, "Stay close, sweetheart, we've got you." Margaret's voice cut through the murmurs. Olivia has torn this family apart with lies. Sophia is troubled, and we're the only ones who can give her stability. The room erupted in whispers, some nodding, others skeptical. I stepped forward, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. You left my daughter alone for 6 hours, Margaret. You locked her in a garage, bruised her arm, and told her she's not family, and now you're lying to everyone, leaking fake stories to the press. I held up Sophia's journal, the Nada Carter drawing visible. This is what you did to her. The room went silent, eyes darting to the drawing. Ethan stood, his voice firm. She's telling the truth. Emma told us how you treated Sophia's children in scores while she played, left behind while you spoiled Emma. It's wrong. Claire nodded, holding up the photo album. This was meant to erase Sophia. It's not right. Murmurs grew louder, the tide turning. Margaret's face reddened, but before she could respond, Sophia's small voice cut through. Well, don't you love me, Grandma? What did I do wrong? The question hung in the air, raw and devastating. Margaret's mouth opened, but no words came. Richard stood, his voice shaking. Sophia, we're sorry. We were wrong. The room erupted, cousins arguing, aunts demanding answers. James stepped forward, his arm around Sophia. This ends now. Sophia is our daughter, and anyone who can't accept that is out of our lives. The family split, some siding with Margaret, others with us, but Ethan's support held firm, a bridge across the divide. As we drove home, Sophia asleep in the back seat, James reached for my hand. We did it, he said, his voice thick with emotion. We fought for her. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. The battle wasn't over. Margaret's emails, the PI, the press leaks loomed like storm clouds, but Sophia's question had shattered their facade, and our family stood stronger. At home, we tucked her into bed, Finn by her side, and I whispered, "You're our heart, Sophia, always." As she smiled, the light returning to her eyes, I knew we'd face whatever came next, together, unbreakable.